What's up, everybody? So my name is Jonathan Blanco. I'm the founder of Niftmint. We're doing NFTs for brands, which is utility there. We see brands having a lot of utility. Really exciting. Excited to invite my fellow panelists today. We like to do our conversations in a very fun and engaging way. Pretend like we're just having lunch. We're talking, and you guys get to listen in, and then we'll open it up for questions here at the end. So with that, I'd like to open and welcome Win to the stage.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome. And we have a couple other moderators, or sorry, a couple other folks are gonna be joining us here shortly. If not, maybe we'll just pull, two people from the audience and to come join us in this conversation. But Win, do you wanna do a quick intro? I'll quickly introduce myself as well,
Sure.
and then we'll go from there.
You wanna go first?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Jonathan. Like I said, I'm the founder of Niftmint. We're doing NFTs for brands. We basically see brands as a tremendous vessel for the adoption of NFTs and utility. I've been in commerce for the last decade and been in crypto since 2017 when I did a loyalty platform for brands. So that's my lens is always on that side of it. Really excited to be here. I'm from Seattle, and this is a nice change of weather.
Sure is, I imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure to be up here with you, Jonathan. Thank you for the introduction. My name is 0xWin. I'm the co-founder of the ThorGuards NFT project. I've been in crypto since 2014 when I was using Bitcoin to remit money back to staff in Vietnam. In 2016, 2017, I got started trading altcoins and then started doing services and community management and marketing work for different crypto projects. And that led me to becoming a founding contributor and early investor in a decentralized exchange protocol called ThorChain. And I've been involved in the ThorChain ecosystem ever since. Started doing media, guides, and content at runebase.org, where I run a podcast and do education for the ThorChain ecosystem. And then in the last year, saw all the energy that was coming together in the NFT ecosystem, and saw how NFTs could really galvanize communities and bring like a more approachable angle into the world of crypto and Web3. And so from that idea, we sparked ThorGuards, which is an NFT project that's geared towards doing something fun, rewarding, and engaging for the ThorChain ecosystem. And one of the major pillars of the project is utility. And so that brings us to the topic of today's discussion.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we both have spent a couple rounds in this ecosystem overall. Let's just start the conversation on just, kind of how utility even started to take place in crypto. So, back in 2017, there was the ICO boom, right? And a lot of these tokens were talking about utility, right? Like, oh, we're a utility token. So because we're a utility token, we don't have to, follow the rules or whatever. It seems like NFTs, and I'm of the belief of this, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are a really interesting source of utility that really until recently, I don't think we've realized as much. What are your thoughts on that overall? And I guess comparatively to, your...
To tokens,
to tokens, exactly. Yeah. I think that'd be a good place to level set.
Yeah, I think, NFTs, just like regular fungible tokens, ERC20s or the like before NFTs, they're not all made alike. So even before NFTs, if you look at different tokens for different protocols, just say in DeFi, for example, different protocols design different degrees of utility into their tokens, which create different levels of value accrual. So take Uniswap, for example. Uniswap actually launched without a token, and they only launched a token after the fact. And the Uniswap token, it ostensibly is a governance token. And it helps you vote on, how the Uniswap treasury. Oh, welcome, Jonathan.
All good. We planned it this way.
Jonathan, good to meet you.
Jonathan, I'm also Jonathan. Nice to meet you, man.
We got a couple of Jonathans.
It takes a second to warm up. Cool. So, Win, why don't you finish your thought,
Yeah,
and then I'll say one quick thing, and then we'll introduce the gentleman.
So different protocols build different types of utility in their tokens. Some are just governance. Some are just some don't really have any utility at all. Take like the meme coins of our day, and then some like I just because it's top of mind for me, like Rune, for example, the ThorChain token, it derives its value directly from the growth of the network. Like as liquidity pools on ThorChain grow, the value of Rune, it grows deterministically based on the value that's in the network. So it has like a very strong utility inside the network, and it's designed to grow by default as the network grows. So not every token is like that. NFTs take that a step further. You have some NFTs that are like, and just nothing wrong with this, but just like strictly the utility is status or it's membership in a community, and that's a great starting point. But increasingly, as more services come onto Web3, you can look at NFTs not as JPEGs. NFTs can be represented by JPEGs, but underpinning that is a crypto asset, and you can build all sorts of utility into or benefits. You think of it as a membership. And this is what we do for ThorGuards. We think of our 2,800 token holders as members, and we can build all sorts of benefits into that membership.
No, that's awesome. And I think what's really neat about NFTs in general is that the entire, utility of the NFT doesn't need to be thought out on day one, right? Like at the end of the day, the NFT is the key that is unlocking, whatever the brand, the company, the group wants to put together to make it happen. And I think that's really interesting too. That's why obviously I think it's really important when you're looking at teams or you're looking at companies or places you want to essentially affiliate yourself with on the NFT side is what is their capacity to actually be able to deliver on the utility that they're talking about. So I'd love to continue the conversation, but first let's introduce Adam and Jonathan, if you want to introduce yourselves real quick.
Hello, I'm Jonathan. I'm the CTO of VK and Medabots.
I am not Adam.
Oh.
I am Dan.
Hey, Dan.
That's
That's okay. You want to introduce yourself? On the paper, you're Dan. You're Adam, but
yeah, we're with Medabots, and I'm with Crypto Street Squad as well. We've projects about was total communities, what, like 26,000 maybe members. Yeah. We're trying to build a pretty robust play to earn mechanism with current free to play mechanisms that are being developed. We got devs in Spain that just have like the whole Web 2 thing done. Now we're just trying to like we got to look at their REST API and make sure that like the ABIs are like line up. It's super technical crap, but we're trying to create a robust play to earn mechanism.
Awesome. Let's dive into that, right? Because play to earn isn't something new that's been around for a long time, but definitely NFTs and crypto have really brought it to the forefront and actually made it feel call it like a little bit, you get to own it actually, as opposed to having it live inside of a network. So can either one of you talk about the utility, behind what really play to earn means in the blockchain NFT context?
Well, I mean, that's a very complex question. It requires a complex answer.
Built for someone who can
20 minutes.
There's so many pathways, so many mechanisms that have to be protected. Player metadata. There's a lot of concerns that we have for players, especially when you talk about like smart chains and the way they function sometimes. Even Ethereum, like we all know, gas fees can be.
Yeah. Got to work around it.
Gas fees.
Well, I'm mentioning the metadata too, like he's saying, our blockchain that's going to be coming out is we're focusing on protecting the metadata for gaming projects.
Are you doing it as a layer 1, layer 2?
Oh, well, that's the thing. We're trying to keep everything like blockchain agnostic as possible, just to avoid, like fees going up on a specific network, or our goal is to really get that there. But approaching that problem is we're dealing with a lot of like Web 2 mindset. So like, and I hate the buzzwords, Web 2, Web 3. It's all it's all the same shit. But
no, but I think that's a smart way to look at it, right? Because I personally think it's as bullish I am as Web 3. You can't force Web 3 down consumers' throats. There needs to be an on ramp into Web 3, right? So an on ramp into Web 3 is essentially how does this function inside of Web 2 to introduce. That's what one of the things that we're doing on the brand side for Niftmint is we build an e-com integration into the brand's existing e-commerce platform, and then we facilitate a lot of that crypto for them.
Yeah, stuff like that's the future, dude.
Well, it has to be, because if not,
even Sandeep said it on YouTube. Like,
well, because if not, you're basically, I think
the tribalism, the philosophy,
right.
That whole
so
thing.
that doesn't really apply itself to business in the sense, right? Like businesses operate the way they do for better or worse, but we need to integrate into what they're doing if we really want to change it. Telling them like, you don't know what you're doing, you're dumb. That's just not going to work.
Well, I mean, it's collaboration because we're all kind of dumb, right? I mean, blockchain has made me realize I'm very dumb.
The space, definitely. Yeah, it can be humbling.
Yeah. And we have to use like words like blockchain and buzzwords like Web 2 and 3.0. But it's like, it's so much more.
Sure.
Jonathan, so when you think about utility, overall, and with what you all are doing with your project, and I guess even what you're seeing outside, how would you break that down for someone? Like, why do I need that? Why don't I just have a piece of paper or a code that allows me to do the same thing?
I mean, I don't know. For me, when I think, if we're talking about in terms of NFTs, right? I think of like, whenever I explain it to someone, when I'm talking about an NFT, I'm like, someone that doesn't know, I'm like, it's a digital baseball card, right? That's what we're talking about here. It's a digital asset. It's something that you could have it physically, but as technology is advancing, like, why not have it in your wallet? Why not carry your digital asset with you everywhere, right? And this is kind of like something hard to explain to people getting into crypto about NFTs. And I think utility-wise makes it a little easier for people to adapt to wanting to be involved in NFTs, right? If there's a utility involved in it, then it makes more sense for someone to want to be a part of it because, oh, I can use it for something. For instance, I'll reference our game. Our NFTs are going to interact with the game. So if you want to get a left arm part, you buy that part, it goes into the game, and you can use it into the game. So the utility's there, and it's easier to explain to somebody how that works as opposed to just a random.
Thank you, 1155.
Well, yeah, and like what you're saying there is that you're essentially articulating the utility through the mechanics of the game, as opposed to saying like, hey, like there's this NFT thing and it does
Oh,
these.
we want to do collectibles too, but like
Yeah.
we want to give them like really rare utility maybe.
Yeah.
Like, all right, so our official celebrity endorsements, the first ones were the Mancada brothers, and they're the guys from Breaking Bad. The Salamanca twins, the assassins that
Yeah.
put you in vats of
They're here, by
hydrochloric
the way,
acid.
at our
Yeah.
booth.
I
They're
saw-
here. Take
I
a
saw their
picture.
machete.
Insert
Get killed.
bit.
Yeah.
I saw their machete
So
downstairs.
like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had an idea before, and I was like, we got to talk to Chap and see. Like I think the machete and the axe could be NFTs that maybe give a very unfair advantage in the game, and we'll just auction them and see what happens. Because as this is all going to happen at the same time, and the community is going to build this themselves because we're going to be taking suggestions and trying to integrate every part of the experience that they want, because that's really the goal, right? Play to earn is for the community, it's not for VC. VC can buy along with us, and we can all grow together instead of them getting first and controlling interest. Which sorry, VC.
Is the majority of the utility that you
Piss
guys are
you off.
designing predominantly like in-game utility?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, it's mostly in-game utility.
Very cool.
The coin is integrated into the game, the NFTs into the game,
Cool.
and then we'll have other stuff later, metaverse and
Yeah.
all that.
And 0x with ThorGuards and how you're thinking about utility.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to break that down because if I'm correct, it's more of a PFP type of project, right? But then also has mechanics that are coming along with it.
Exactly.
Can you break that down for us real quick for those that maybe not even understand that difference? Like, how would you have utility in a PFP to begin with, and then how are you doing it?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, like the PFP, the JPEG that represents each NFT, is just the kind of visual representation of that. But underpinning that is a digital token, and we can build all sorts of utility into that. We started before the NFT project. We had deep relationships with 15 different interfaces, applications, dexes, launchpads that are building on top of ThorChain and in the ThorChain ecosystem. And so leveraging those partnerships and relationships, we have this kind of like a unique access amongst other NFT projects where anybody that holds a ThorGuard NFT, they can get access to benefits throughout our ecosystem of partners. You can think of it as kind of like a coupon book almost, or and it's a win-win all around. I mean, for our community, they get
It's
things
a
like
digital deed at the end of the day.
a digital deed,
And that's what it is.
We can do business development and partnerships to build all sorts of benefits around that. So things like discounted trading fees on different exchanges, or boosted yields
Access
on
to play to earn games, whitelist.
play to earn games.
I heard of one instant or recently where if you had the certain NFT, then you were able to mint on the platform, and if you didn't have it, then you weren't able to mint.
Yeah.
So that something like that is.
Well, I mean,
like
I feel
token
like
access-
what we
yeah,
need
access.
to do is after we're done with all these games and like PFPs, we need to like go to our government and say, hey, our commodities need to be traded this way. Like I spent almost an extra $12K on a container coming into customs, and it's like, why? I could have did $30 in gas and an NFT. It's done. It's done. Like what?
$30 in gas.
And we're over here playing, like doing it for games and PFPs, and this is fun. This is
Yeah.
going to bring a lot of utility, but the bigger talks have to happen at some
Oh,
point.
yeah. I mean, I
and we're going to do them.
I mean, eventually, in enough time, like identity and governance and you know, and like proof of humanity, all of that will be done on chain, and it'll be represented by NFTs. And so, as more and more of like our digital lives and like financial services, governance, and all of this makes its way online, you know, like we will be signing these transactions and voting and like participating in like school boards and like local
No
governments
suppression. No more suppression.
on chain. Like it's gonna
The
happen.
votes will no longer
Yeah.
be counted in paper booths and burnt when they want. certain
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
It's going to be,
yeah.
oh,
Pretty
let me go
archaic
check my
system,
vote
yeah.
and make sure it didn't change today.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking
Like, is this
about
a truly permissionless network?
As we are in
Let's see.
Florida.
we're talking. Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about keys.
Yeah, Florida. Yeah, everybody's got their gun on them, right?
The
Yeah.
keys to unlock things, right? The keys to unlock, you know, how we interact and how we do things, you know, in our digital life and even in our physical life, you know, overall. Again, the way we're thinking about it from the brand context and some of the things that we're hearing from brands overall is, you know, we have brands and they're like, hey, we really want to get in this NFT thing, but they love the idea of unlocking things. Like they love the idea of creating membership and those sort of things. So we have this one brand that we're talking with, for example, they want to do about 10,000 NFTs, but they want to give it to their to the customers that spend the most inside of their network. And they're like, oh, well, we want to invite them to the fashion shows that we do. And we want to give them access to, you know, exclusive drops of clothing and these sort of things, right?
So incentivizing it. In a sense.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Creating those incentives,
It's like
you
the
know,
gamer's
overall.
mindset into everything, right?
But what's interesting on the brand context is they really think about NFTs not just as this strictly collectible rare thing, but also as just a consumer good. You know, if a consumer is willing to buy a watch, why wouldn't they also want to buy a digital watch? And you know, Gen Z is the first generation that their whole lives have been built on wanting things or loving things that they've never touched. So I think that's a really pretty interesting thing about.
Can I think like NFC, NFT, like one-to-ones are
Yeah.
going to be like,
So-
to have that
Yeah.
digital representation, you know, like you go to a store and you buy something,
Yeah.
and then immediately on your receipt you can claim the digital mirrored version of it.
Totally.
Be cool.
Well, like back to the baseball card thing. Like when I buy a pack of baseball cards, I'm like, it's cool. Open it. For some reason, when I go on Tops and I buy a pack of baseball cards that's NFTs, I'm like, I'm hyped. I'm all like, what am I gonna get? What am I gonna get? But when
For
I
sure.
open a real pack, I'm all like, it's not even that exciting.
Can we talk about that psychology trigger there? Because
Yeah.
that's why I'm so bullish on NFTs. When I'm minting stuff, it's like I'm in a casino with the slot machine.
But I still maintain some form of
got an
value
ape.
instead of losing it, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, so we have about 8 minutes left. This is actually the most full I've seen a panel room
a nice
on.
room.
So I have a feeling there's probably a handful of you that have a question. So I do want to give you all the opportunity to do so. The only thing that I ask is if you can ask your question in like 10 to 15 seconds, and then because sometimes you have people like, hey, this is me and I have a question, and 2 minutes
Can I
go
also
by.
ask them to spit out their like top 3 tickers right before they speak? Just want to get a consensus of the room.
The alpha stage.
I want to know what I'm maybe into this
But
week.
does anybody have a question? If not, we'll gladly. Okay, go ahead. What's your question, real quick?
Not necessarily.
So
Not necessarily.
Hold on. Let me just.
Decentralized satellites.
Hold on, let me repeat the question for the video. So, if I understand the question properly, it's what's the benefit of like an NFT for based on government if they centralize whatever it is anyway?
Yeah, there's a big implicit assumption there, and that is that whichever government's doing this decides to build their own like central chain. Like it's possible, like some monolith like China or US might do that, but other countries might embrace an open chain. So there's an assumption there.
They have no choice.
But no, I think the U.S. government would absolutely not relinquish.
We've all
But
opted
there's
out of the
other
dollar.
governments.
We've all opted out of the dollar, have we not?
192 other governments.
We've opted out of fiat. We've said we will no longer participate in something that is clearly corrupt. So you have no choice but to go with the flow. This is by the people, for the people. This is true by the people, for the people. So as long as we continue to do that hard work, they're gonna knock on our door and be like, "We're sorry. What do you need?"
Just
Well, the money printer is the big problem. That's the liquidity arbitrage bot of the whole world.
So hold up, before we get too far down the money printer
much.
side of things.
It's too much, sorry.
No, it's all good. Just we only have a few minutes. So thank you for the question. To come and talk more about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Who else has a question? In the back? So the question is how do you prevent an NFT from one chain being duplicated to another, via bad actor or double spend type things?
I don't know that, I mean, depending on the chain and if it's truly decentralized, that you can really have a handle on that. But what you can't duplicate is everything that makes that NFT valuable. So what makes an NFT valuable is going to be things like your community, the shared story amongst a subset of people that buy into that NFT. You can right-click save 10,000 CryptoPunks and be no richer for it because you can't duplicate the entire community. And so it's one that I don't really think too much about. I just work on designing the best community and the most utility. They can't duplicate the partnerships and the utility that you build into whatever token. So I don't worry too much about that.
Why? I think it's a good question. It's a hard question. Consensus is really the answer, but that's forever work, right? I think a lot of NFT marketplaces are going to do that on like layer 2-ish kind of like technology. You're going to start to see some stuff like that.
Well, that's why the metadata is important too. I mean, that goes.
That's
along
exactly
with,
it. Right?
That goes
Yeah.
along with the NFT. So without the metadata, it's,
CTO saying
you know
technical
what I'm
stuff.
saying?
What I always like to say is remember that the image is the representation of the NFT. It's not even technically the NFT, right? Like that's just the visualization of whatever it represents, So all the stuff behind it is what needs to be worried about being duplicated, and you wouldn't be able to do that, at least from an identifiable standpoint.
There's a disparity in the things that we're talking about.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Maybe
That's
public
why-
shaming is what we need.
So
Well,
shame.
but then again, like, all right, but then again, with permissionless networks, I mean, how many people found Bitcoin because of torrenting?
yeah.
Like, it's technology that exists, and it's always going to have some layer of it that's human, and humans are kind of greedy sometimes. So they do stupid
So
stuff.
I think we have time for 2 more
Yeah,
questions. I
let's do
saw
it.
Yeah, go
one
ahead.
like right up here. Does someone up here have one? Can't remember. Go ahead in the white hat.
Repeat the question.
So basically, if you have an NFT that's perhaps like a digital fashion, how do you essentially flex that, and how do you use that in multiple metaverses essentially?
Well, I mean, do you think about like how the layer 2s interact? Some layer 2s interact with their layer 1. You got liquidity bridges that lock up Ethereum and then go into another network. You could do something like that, right? And then you're talking about like moving the ownership mechanism of it. But the art and the content, I mean, that war has been fought for like probably hundreds of years. Stories have been ripped off from other stories. I mean, it's culture. That's the great thing about crypto is culture, and then you have the ownership tech side of things, and that relationship is an interesting relationship.
Sounds to me like a very intricate APY needs to be made for
Yeah, there just needs to be interoperability
API.
amongst it.
API, yes.
So it's a solvable problem. It's just whether or not people care to solve it.
Yes.
Well, middleware is going to be.
So we got time for one more question?
Yep, one more.
do it.
I want to. Hold on. Is there a lady in the room that has a question? Go ahead. Oh, I'm gonna repeat it anyway, so no worries, and I can hear
Could you be quiet?
Gotcha. Yeah. So the question basically is if you purchase an NFT, where does ownership lie?
I'll take that real quick. So
Yeah,
how
sure.
we think about this, we look at some of the other projects in the space, and it's a question of like intellectual property rights. And in our estimation, it's not black and white. There's a gray area where we want the community to be able to express, they have a piece of the network. They have a piece of that, and they're already expressing their identity with our ThorGuards. Like Kevin Rose currently has a ThorGuard as his profile picture, and if he wants to print that on a shirt, we want to enable that. But where the gray area ends is if they decide to start an entire character franchise based on the NFTs that they bought from ours, and then that quickly gets into some commercial use. And so how we think about it, and I think I forget if Bored Apes or CyberKongs has done this, but essentially you can put a cap, you can maybe print this, use free use until a certain point, like $100,000 a year earned or something, at which point, we have another agreement that kicks in.
And then attach royalties to it.
Exactly.
There you go. Well, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. For this
sorry we
session.
were late.
All good. Everybody
Sorry
here,
about
thank you.
that.
We'll
That was
be
a
over
good
here on the
combo.
left-hand side if you have any
That was
questions.
great.
Real quick, what are some ways that people can stay in touch with you? What's Twitter? What's your Twitter?
My Twitter is fully voxed. Is my Twitter name?
and
I'm
what's your Twitter, Dan, Adam, Dan, whatever your
It's
name
either
is?
Satoshi Boulevard, all spelled, or BLVD. I can't remember.
And your Twitter?
At 0xwing. You can try and figure that one out.
And I'm at JG Product. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.